Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, maybe I'll just change this student sample up here. That's actually an H1 tag, so I'm going to hit return again. I'm going to type in H1. So I'm basically going to target that H1 tag and do my double brackets. What I'm going to do with my H1 tag is I'm going to change the font family of that one. And I'm going to go back to a serif font. And I'm going to use Georgia as my first one. I like to use Georgia, and these are just system fonts. Georgia, then Cambria, which is one you'll see with Microsoft Office. I'll do Times New Roman. I'll use quotes for this because there's spaces in it. The only reason I'm using quotes here is because there's spaces. So whenever there's two words, you have to use quotes. And then I'll do a comma here, and I'll do one more, and I'll just do serif. And serif came up by default. I'll put a semicolon. Now if I go back, I'll just do a Command S and save it. I'll go back, refresh it. Okay, and there, now it's back in that serif font, and notice it's bold by default because an H1 is always bold by default. We have this whole kind of section thing. Everything was in this big section thing, and that's kind of where all my content is. So what I'm going to do before I start putting spaces above this, maybe I'm actually going to put spacing in my entire section area. So I'm going to do another style, go back to my CSS. I'll leave the H1 alone from now, and you can always add things to it, and I'll do one for section. And again, I'm just doing my curly brackets and throwing some stuff in here. And for section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a padding value. Padding value is kind of like an inner margin. It's actually like a cell margin. Like if you had a table, it's kind of the padding or the inset that's inside it. So I'm going to use that first. And for padding, I'm going to use like 16 pixels. And let's just see what that does. There's our padding, and you can see I have basically 16 pixels. Now these numbers and bullets, we'll have to fix them. They're a little different, but there's 16 pixels all around. And I can't really almost tell how big my section is. Maybe I'll give it a color. I'm going to give it a background color. And it's background dash color. For the background color, I'm going to use just some kind of beigey white. And this is something where when I do this, I might kind of move this over here. And remember, for color, if you put in, I like to just put in the pound sign and like 3 numbers, and then right click on it and do the quick edit, and it brings up this little color thing. I'm going to kind of look for just like an off-white color. So I'm going to take it down kind of in the orangey and then just look for a real like kind of off-white kind of color up here. I'll go over here, I'll refresh it, and there it is. And it looks a little dark, but that's okay. I'm going to leave that for now. There is this little space in here which we're going to have to fix. That's a little glitchy thing that we're actually going to fix when we write a header style. So I'm going to have to put that in too. And actually, to fix that, let me go fix it right now. This is an easy fix. I'm going to try to stay in the order that I have my HTML. Body, and then is everything, and then header was the first thing. Now, I didn't have to do anything for header because it just has my header image, but I am going to put a header style, or header rule, I should say. All I'm going to do is just put in height. And my height is 200. Now, if your image is bigger than 200, make it whatever your image size is. I know some of you had some images that were a little bigger than 200. But I'm going to put in 200 because I know that my image size is 200. And I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do Command S. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to refresh it. And that should take out that little white strip that's in there. That's all you have to do is just put in your height for your header section. Remember, the header section just has our image in. And that's all it has right now. I'm going to put one more. And I'm going to put for a P tag, because that's how paragraph is identified. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put like a margin. We don't have space before and space after like we have in Word or InDesign, but we are going to do margin top and margin bottom. So I'm going to put margin top, and I'm going to put like 24 pixels. I'll put a lot of space above it. And then for margin bottom, I'll do a margin bottom. This is like a space after. I'm going to put in maybe like 12. So I want more space before than after. So that's what I'm doing with my P's. I'll do a Command S. I'll come here. I'll refresh, and you see what it did. There's 24 pixels before each paragraph, before the P tags, and there's about 12 after. Okay, so it's starting to spread out okay. It's starting to look okay right now. For right now, let's just review what we did so far. We started a new CSS file. Here's our index file. Here's my index file. And what I did here is we created this link rel style sheet, type is text CSS, ex4.css. We linked to a separate file, and then we make the separate file. And here it is. And it's a CSS file. It's different than an HTML file. And I started off with a reset rule. Then I put a rule for body, which specified the width, and the margin auto, which centered it. And if I wanted to go here and put a comment, you might want to do something like this, because you want to take your own notes. I'm going to put in toggle block comment, and I'm going to put in width is needed to use auto to center body. Now you may not know what that means right now, but then I'm just going to copy this thing, this comment, and I'm going to put it right here, and I'm just going to write auto centers the body content. That's all it does, and that's all you need to know right now. But if you ever need to know how to center the body content, you do it that way. Font family, I don't think any notes for that. And even here, I could fixes the white gap below header. Okay, that's what it did. It just fixed that white gap. That's the only reason we even put that there. And then copy this and put space below. Then you have some notes. Then you kind of can look at your code and you kind of know what it's doing. So make sure you use this to create your own notes. So you might not want to go look up web pages and look up all this. You could have it all right here. Off-white background color, just so I know that that's for the section. And it's only for the section. It's not for the entire body. It's just for that part. And I may have to change things eventually, but that's what I have so far. That's my CSS, and you can see what it's doing. It's controlling parts of my web page by identifying the H1, the Ps, by identifying the section, by identifying the body. All these different parts here we've identified with CSS. And we're going to keep doing that until we lay it out so it looks like that other sample that we saw.